finally, we're getting a 24/7 NASCAR streaming channel, and there are more cars entering the Daytona 500 than we originally thought. Lots of surprises today, and the duels are going to be so much fun. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line on the ATYL Media channel, where we do motorsports media your way. And on this show, we talk about NASCAR all the time. Before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you know when we post. Let's dive right into it with a question. Who wants free NASCAR content? Everybody does, right? And with the announcement from the sanctioning body today, I was very happy. Today, NASCAR announced their free streaming channel called the NASCAR channel that will debut on Tubi on January 29th. And when I say free, they mean completely free. No subscriptions required, which is music to my ears as somebody who had to do a lot of shifting around with their wallet and bank account to figure out how I'm going to pay for a Max and Amazon Prime Video subscription this year to just watch the sport. So more free NASCAR is music to my ears. So what can we expect from this streaming platform on Tubi? Well, they're going to have reruns of this season's races. They're going to have classic races on the platform. They also plan to have documentaries and original content from NASCAR Studios. This includes Shannon Spake's morning show that she had on the YouTube channel. And of course, Radioactive. Glad to see that that's finding a home somewhere. So just a few examples of what you can find on the 24/7 streaming platform, which is of course the NASCAR channel. With the streaming platform debuting before the season begins on January 29th, it gives NASCAR extra time to add in some additional content before the season truly kicks off. So NASCAR did announce in their press release as well that they're going to be covering the NASCAR Hall of Fame induction ceremony live, so everyone can see Carl Edwards, Ricky Rudd get inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is pretty awesome. Along with this, NASCAR said that they'll also air the Cookout Madhouse Classic at Bowman Gray on the NASCAR channel. It's the invitational only event that features the stars of Bowman Gray Memorial Stadium's modified division, which is pretty cool. I think a lot of fans were worried with all of NASCAR stuff going to streaming platforms, feeling like everything was behind a paywall for the most part, that they weren't going to really get to enjoy the sport that they love. But this free, I can't emphasize that enough, free 24/7 streaming platform on Tubi is a great in-between, getting fans some classic NASCAR races, which you can watch on NASCAR Classics, but you can also watch through this 24/7 channel. It also gets you free access to exclusive content from NASCAR Studios, which is pretty cool. It is a way to enjoy the sport we love, again, for free. My office gets a little quiet during the day when I'm writing emails and writing scripts for videos, so having it on in the background will actually be very lovely in between meetings, so I'm very excited about that. So there's some pretty big news there, the announcement of the NASCAR channel. Let's shift gears to talking about the Daytona 500, because there are two teams that announced today they're making their NASCAR Cup Series debut with the Daytona 500. And it's news that we expected and news that we were hoping we'd get, didn't expect, but it's happening. Let's start off with the announcement that we all assumed was going to happen. It was just a matter of when it was going to get announced. The Martin Truex Jr. announcement, that's right. He will be racing in the Great American Race with Tricon Garage this year. He'll pilot the number 56 Bass Pro Shops Toyota Camry SXE for Tricon Garage with heavy support from Joe Gibbs Racing. He'll also be reuniting with a longtime partner of his, Bass Pro Shops, and I say reuniting as if he wasn't just in a Bass Pro Shops car back in November for his last race as a full-time driver. But it's still really cool to see it all come together that way. Speaking of reunions, Cole Pearn is coming back to crew chief Martin Truex Jr. for this event. Of course, they spent several years together as driver and crew chief, and of course, Cole Pearn helped that team get the championship in 2017. Martin Truex Jr. is a class act guy and a class act driver. He is going to be in the Hall of Fame someday, and he's really good at figuring out how to win these crown jewel races. He has 2 Coca-Cola 600 wins, once other 500. However, what eludes him all the time, crown jewel or not, is these super speedway races. So hopefully he has a good opportunity to potentially get the Daytona 500 win with a big partnership with Joe Gibbs Racing with Tricon Garage. And also looking at the field this year, we're going to talk about the open entries in a second, but there is the potential for 11 Toyotas to be in the Daytona 500 field. There is a power in numbers. So if all 11 Toyotas potentially get into the field, I think that really does help Martin Truex Jr. get the win. But like I said, the super speedways tend to elude him, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he does, how Tricon does in their Cup Series debut with support from Joe Gibbs Racing. Should be an interesting race to watch. Of course, Martin Truex Jr.'s entry is an open entry, meaning he's going to have to qualify his way in or race his way in from the duels, so He has a lot working against him, but I think he should be okay, fingers crossed. Speaking of another team and another car that is an open entry, let's talk about Junior Motorsports. It's about darn time that Junior Motorsports made their Cup Series debut, and they're making it with Justin Allgaier. He will pilot the number 40 Traveler Whiskey Chevrolet. And I'm a very big fan of Chris Stapleton, so to see his brand Traveler Whiskey on the car is so cool. So I'm very excited about that already, but Junior Motorsports making their Cup Series debut is a very big deal, and bringing Justin Allgaier back to the Cup Series not only after his successful run filling in for Kyle Larson during the 600 last year while Kyle Larson was in Indy, and just all things considered, just winning the championship in the Xfinity Series. This is like the recipe for success, or at least a really good start with their Cup Series debut. Justin Allgaier, like I said, is not new to the Cup Series. He has 82 Cup Series starts. He understands the stakes of this competition, but there's also a lot of pressure with this. It's the Daytona 500. Then, of course, you have its Junior Motorsports debut in the Cup Series. That's a pretty big deal. So there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but I think he should be okay. He should be able to handle it very well. And of course, for me, I can't just think about how cool this is that Junior Motorsports is going to be in the Cup Series making their debut. I'm thinking ahead. What does this mean for the future? Are we going to see Junior Motorsports fielding an entry in more races this season? We don't know. Not to rehash some things, but back in June of 2024, Kelly Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. talked on the Dale Jr. Download about how they're still at the table for looking for a charter, and they were toying around with the idea of fielding an open entry in some race this coming year or in the future, and they can check that off their list because we have that with the Daytona 500 entry for Justin Allgaier. But when it comes to owning a charter, we know that there's a lot to consider there, considering the prices of buying a charter are so high, and right now, with the charter agreement, there's a federal antitrust lawsuit that I don't like to bring up in every video, but I tend to bring up in every video between 2311 Racing for Motorsports and NASCAR that probably should get situated first before any new team decides to make their way into the NASCAR Cup Series. So, until that's all figured out, don't really know. But nothing was said about more plans this year or in the near future for Junior Motorsports in the Cup Series, but excited to see them make their debut for the 500. Like I said, again, this is an open entry, so Justin Allgaier is going to either have to qualify his way in or win his way into the main event through the duels. And though some people might say, this should be a cakewalk for Justin Allgaier and even to Martin Truex Jr., who's been in the Daytona 500 consecutively for the past many years, this might not be so easy for the open cars. Of course, you have Justin Allgaier for Junior Motorsports, Martin Truex Jr. for Tricon Garage. You have Anthony Alfredo with Beard Motorsports in the number 62. He's been very good at qualifying for this event or racing his way in through the duels. Beard Motorsports put together fantastic equipment every single season for this race, and just generally all super speedway they run in the Cup Series, so maybe Anthony Alfredo qualifies or races his way in. Today, Jimmy Johnson announced that he would attempt to run in the Daytona 500 this year. He also announced that he's going to race in the Coca-Cola 600, and that is his 2025 slate. No other announcements there, so taking a step back a little bit maybe from racing in the Cup Series scene, I don't know. But Jimmy Johnson will also potentially be in the field for the Great American Race. BJ McLeod plans to race in the number 78, and Helio Castroneves will not have to qualify his way in. He is already locked into the event in the Project 91 car on a provisional with NASCAR's newest rule updates, so he's locked in. He's a world-class driver. All is good. So those are the entries that we know will be competing to make their way into the Daytona 500. There are cars that there are rumblings of that will compete, but we don't know anything about. Like the number 15 for Rick Ware Racing, there has not been an announcement about that yet. Same with the number 33 of RCR. Don't know if they plan to compete. Don't know anything about that, but they typically do. So holding out and waiting for news there potentially. We have the number 50, the Team Amerivet car. And of course, the big story this week that I talked about on socials, so make sure to follow me at _Taylor Kitchen_ or at above the yellow line, is that the number 66 is vacant. It was a seat that was going to be filled by Mike Wallace. However, NASCAR deemed him ineligible to compete in the race due to just being out of the car, being out of a car for an intermediate or higher track for over 15 years in NASCAR. So deemed him ineligible on social media. Mike Wallace shared his disappointment about this, and rightfully so. It just seemed like a lot of miscommunication there, but we talk about it, of course, more on our social media pages. So MBM Motorsports is looking for another driver to fill that seat in very quickly. But of course, we will keep you updated right here at Above the Yellow Line and ATYL Media on if those seats get filled, if they're not, and what things are looking like for the Daytona 500. And of course, the ATYL live show will preview the Daytona 500 the week of the Great American Race. For the rest of the off season, we will have the ATYL live show on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But starting February 5th, we're moving the show to Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the rest of the season. So off-season Tuesdays, but on February 5th, the ATYL live show is moving to Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So be on the lookout for that. Turn on the notification bell so you know when we go live so you don't forget. But that does it for me here at Above the Yellow Line. What did you think of the news? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, make sure to go to abovetheyellowline.com to check out our merch and learn how to best support us. Thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.